Shabbat Shalom, Good Shabbos, Erev Shel Shoshanim. Erev Shel Shoshanim, Nitzein al Chabustan, Mor Bisamim ulevonav, Leraglech Miftan, Lala Yomer Leat, ורוח שושנו שבר, הבל חשלח שיר בלט, זמר של אהבה, זמר של אהבה.
Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, and welcome back to our home. And as I like to say, we hope we're welcome in your home as well. It's Shabbat time, and we have a full service ready for you this evening. I hope you will sing along or hum along and just participate as best you can.
Shalom Alechem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedechem L'Shalom, Malachei Rabbi, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And with that, let's turn to the blessing of our Shabbat candles. If you have candles at your table or in your home, this would be the time to kindle them along with us.
We say, come, let us welcome Shabbat. May its radiance illumine our hearts as together we kindle these tapers.
Light is the symbol of the divine. The eternal God is our light and our salvation.
Light is the symbol of the holiness within each of us. The human spirit is the light of God. Light is the symbol of the Torah's teachings.
For the commandments are our lamps, and the Torah is a light.
Light is the symbol of our people's purpose, as it is written, to serve as a light to the nations.
Therefore, in the spirit of our ancient tradition that hallows and unites our people in all lands and in all ages, let us now kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת. אמן. מורים מלאכים, מורים מלאכים,
the Kiddush cup, please. Oh, it's right there. Let us praise God with this symbol of joy as we express gratitude for all the blessings of the past week, for our lives and our health, for our homes and loved ones and friends, for the happiness that has come to us from our efforts. You have ennobled us through the blessings of work and have given us the gift of Shabbat Rest. As it is written in the Torah, 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is Shabbat, hallowed unto God. We join together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher litziyat mitzrayim.
Together.
Kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'yahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim, l'simcha, l'shalom. To your health. Rabbi.
Yes. Shabbat shalom to you too.
Shabbat shalom.
And watch for my audition on America's Got Talent.
Shabbat shalom.
And now we turn to the Baruch Hu and Shema as we chant together. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamivorach. Baruch Adonai Hamivorach Le'olam Va'ed. And together we chant, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malechuto Le'olam Va'ed. And now let us continue with the chanting of Ve'ahavta according to the cantillation pattern that is found in the Torah.
Ve'ahavta
et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'shofbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu totafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem. Amen.
And now in English. You shall love the eternal God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be upon your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be a symbol before your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, that you may remember and do my commandments, and be holy to your God. The Eternal One led you out of Egypt to be your God. The Eternal One alone is your God.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha netav b'kodesh, Norah tehilot osef eleh, Norah tehilot osef eleh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha netav b'kodesh, Norah tehilot osef eleh, Norah tehilot osef eleh. Anu, ve'ameru, Adonai, Adonai yimloch, le'olam va'ed. Adonai, Adonai yimloch, le'olam va'ed. Ve'ne'emar, ki fada Adonai et Yaakov. וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאון ישראל, גאון ישראל ועל כל העמים ועל כל העולם. We join together in singing Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני, that's your part, את השמיים ואת הארץ. join ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Symbol of our covenant with God. We join together in the Avodimahot.
Adonai sifatai tiftach
ufia gitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer, Umoshia Umagen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezerat Sarah. On this Shabbat, we have something really special and lovely to add to our service. It's a new composition of an old prayer, the Hashkivenu, a prayer we say at nighttime when we're about to rest and go to sleep, praying that we will sleep at peace and that we'll wake up in the morning refreshed and in continued good health. We're going to let Cantor get over to the keyboard because she's going to accompany herself on this piece of music this evening, and I'm sure that you'll find it very beautiful and inspiring as well. Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Cause us, may we lie down in peace, O God, and rise up to life anew each day. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over us, over all of this world. Guard our coming and our going from this time forth and forever.
Adonai
We join together in our Birkat Shalom, our prayer for peace. Shalom Rav, with Albert. Shalom Rav, Shasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Shasim Leolam. Shalom Amen.
Each week on Shabbat Eve, we offer a prayer for those who are ill, whether our own family and friends, or people that we've never met, who are at this time struggling with the coronavirus, and we wish them, of course, a refuah shlema, a complete and total recovery from this illness, and that this virus itself will soon disappear from our earth.
And I would add that we also, on this Shabbat, we offer Misha Beirach to comfort the families who have lost loved ones, who have been victims of violence, So may their broken hearts heal in some way. And we are with you. Misha Beirach. May the source of strength, who lost the once before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with the true washing, giving you all our body, giving you all our spirit, and let us say Amen.
Again, I'd like to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and to say that I hope that you are all in good health and doing reasonably well under these continually difficult conditions. This Shabbat, I want to talk to you about the second of the 10 Commandments. Note, I did not say the Second Amendment, the Second Commandment. And that commandment is, you shall not make for yourselves any graven images or idols. Judaism, as you may know, arose in an age and a place where religion commonly had many kinds of idols that were worshipped as if they were gods themselves. And from the outset, Judaism, and later, of course, Islam, rejected the concept that anything physical could possibly represent God or have supernatural powers. Hence, the oft-repeated admonition throughout our Hebrew Bible, expressed first in the Torah and then many times over by the prophets, is against idolatry, which not only included statues and such, but also the cherishing of what might be called false gods, such as material property or fame or fortune. For that reason, you will never see a synagogue or a mosque that has any depiction of God, or even of important figures such as Moses or, in Islam, Muhammad. And there are almost no exceptions to this rule, past or present. The well-known statue of Moses by Michelangelo is located not in a synagogue, but in the Church of San Pietro, which is in Rome. Unfortunately, as you may know, it depicts Moses as having horns, which of course has been the source of considerable misunderstanding and also anti-Semitism. So no matter how beautifully created we may believe that the sculpture is, you will never see any replica of that Moses sculpture in any synagogue anywhere in the world. Now, there are some statues of famous Jewish individuals. In fact, there is a bronze statue of Rabbi Judah Loew, which is located in a public square in Prague, in the Czech Republic. Rabbi Loew, of course, is the subject of the legend that he created the Golem of Prague to protect the Jewish people of Prague from rampaging crowds. There is also a bronze statue of Maimonides located at the center of the old Jewish quarter in Cordoba, Spain, in the Calle de los Judíos, but neither of these are found within synagogues themselves. I'm raising the subject of graven images this week because we're in the midst of a cultural change that is challenging the continued presence of what I certainly consider to be graven images, namely the large number of statues and memorials to leaders of the Confederacy. Without exception, these memorials honor men who betrayed and fought against the United States of America, primarily to preserve the deeply immoral institution of slavery. Almost all of those depicted were slaveholders themselves who had profited immensely from their heartless oppression of African American men, women, and unfortunately even children. I used to think that these memorials were erected shortly after the end of the Civil War to praise the heroism of Confederate leaders. But actually I was wrong. What I learned recently is that the vast majority of these Confederate monuments were built during the era of the Jim Crow laws from 1887 all the way up until 1964. And most of these Confederate monuments were built during periods of racial conflict, such as when the Jim Crow laws were introduced and also during the civil rights movement of the 1960s. The consensus of historians is that the reason that these monuments were built was not to celebrate the glory, if you will, of the past, but rather to protect and preserve a white supremacist future. These monuments were installed to make a political and a racial statement. To that end, even to this day, they continue to deliver a silent and yet unmistakable message that this remains a white person's country. I should mention a very different monument that is located in the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. It's not actually a statue, but rather it is a block of wood. President Obama focused on this particular artifact when he spoke on the occasion of the dedication of the museum. It is actually a slave auction block with an engraving on it about how Andrew Jackson and Henry Clay spoke from that very block in 1830. The engraving makes no mention whatsoever of what else happened on that block, where, as President Obama said, day after day for years, men and women were torn from their spouse or their child, shackled and bound and bought and sold and bid like cattle. If there was ever a memorial needing to be preserved, and this one will be, it is this very block, now properly identified for its despicable original purpose. I ask you to consider as well the great monuments in our nation's capital. The Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the series of sculptures dedicated to President Franklin D. and Eleanor Roosevelt, and of course the massive stone block out of which is carved the likeness of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What is especially significant is that all of these have inscribed on them words reflecting the high values of the ones that are so appropriately honored. On the Washington Monument are inscribed these simple words: first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. The Washington Monument serves as an ever-inspiring reminder of George Washington's greatness and of our nation's forever indebtedness to him. Likewise, the majestic Lincoln Memorial, which was dedicated in 1922, has these words carved upon the wall: in this temple, as in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever. These monuments and many others celebrate the noblest of human aspirations. They continue to inspire and impart our nation's endless gratitude, as well they must. And if you have ever visited there, you know exactly what I mean. You cannot approach the Lincoln Memorial without feeling deeply appreciative for the greatness of this incredible human being. All of these hallowed symbols convey the exact opposite of what the Confederate Memorials seek to perpetuate. There are nearly 1,500 existing Confederate memorials scattered almost entirely throughout the South, all of them honoring the exploits of those who fought to continue the greatest sins ever committed by this nation against its own people. Sins that persist in too many ways to this very day against African American people and people of other color. These, I submit, remain as graven images, and I use that term advisedly, in the truest and most despicable sense of the word. The removal of these graven images is necessary because of the undeniable fact that they glorify white supremacy and they honor a treasonous government whose founding principle was the perpetuation of slavery. And that is why every proposed removal of these monuments continues to be opposed, sometimes even violently, by white supremacists and those who continue to believe that, yes, this is a white person's country. Most recently, this past month, following the horrifying killing of George Floyd, there has begun a new wave for the removal of Confederate monuments and also of the Confederate flag. Some contend that the removal of these symbols and memorials are some kind of an attempt to rewrite history, to which I say that is utter nonsense. The history of that era is very well documented. It should not be celebrated nor used to encourage continuing discrimination by so-called heroic statues. The removal of these monuments is necessary in order to help heal open wounds that continue to infect our nation to this very day. And as Dr. King said, there is a fierce urgency of now. We have our own Confederate Memorials right here in Bradenton and very nearby. No doubt you've all seen the gigantic Confederate battle flag in Brandon. I believe it's the second largest in the entire world, and it is the centerpiece of a Confederate Veterans Memorial that was erected as recently as 2008, very recently. The flag, which by the way is 50 by 30 feet, is on a pole tall enough that it can be seen miles away on the interstate, as we've all done, and from surrounding communities as well. The sons of Confederate veterans insist that it honors the courage of rebel soldiers who fought in the Civil War. Sure. And if you believe that one. In our own community, in 2017, the Manatee County Commission voted by a bare majority, 4-3, to move the Confederate monument that was in front of the county courthouse. It had been dedicated in 1924 by the Judah P. Benjamin chapter of the United Daughters of the Confederacy. It commemorates such individuals as Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, and Jefferson Davis, and as it says in the inscription, the memory of our Confederate soldiers. In August of 2017, it was removed. However, it was at 3 a.m. under cover of dark, and no final decision has been made, as far as I know, as to where it will eventually end up, but I suppose it will end up in some cemetery. There remains one Confederate memorial here in Manatee County. It is an antebellum mansion, the home of Major Robert Gamble, Jr., on a former sugar plantation that he owned. And during its day, Major Gamble had as many as 200 slaves. The Gamble Mansion is actually the only surviving plantation house in South Florida, although of course there are others in other parts of the South. Confederate Secretary of State Judah P. Benjamin took refuge here after the fall of the Confederacy. It was never his home. It was actually his hideout when he was running for his life, especially after having been accused of participating in some manner in the planning of President Lincoln's assassination. No one knows for sure if that part is true or not. In 1925, the Gamble Mansion was saved by the Judah P. Benjamin chapter of the United Daughters of the Confederacy and donated to the state of Florida. Monuments go, the Judah Benjamin Memorial is nothing to get overworked about. It's not a statue of Judah Benjamin. It's simply a bronze plaque noting that he had served as Secretary of War in the Confederacy and that he stayed there briefly in that mansion. To regard Judah Benjamin as a controversial figure in American Jewish history is undeniable. What is highly debatable is whether his memory ought to be honored or whether it should remain an embarrassment to Jews today. I'll tell you just a little bit. Judah Philip Benjamin was the first Jew who had not renounced his faith who was ever elected to the United States Senate. And that is from the days when senators were elected not by the people, but rather by the state legislatures. Judah Benjamin was a lawyer and a politician who became a United States Senator from Louisiana. And then after the succession, he became a leading figure in the Confederacy. He was actually Jefferson Davis's closest confidant, and he successively held the positions of Attorney General, Secretary of War, and eventually even Secretary of State. After his escape at the end of the Civil War, via the Gamble Mansion and other places, he moved to England, where he became a barrister and again rising to the top of his profession, even actually becoming counsel to Queen Victoria, if you can believe that. And he died in Paris in 1885. Judah Benjamin was definitely not an abolitionist. He had become wealthy from his law practice, and so he bought a sugarcane plantation, and he purchased 140 slaves to work that plantation, and he had something of a reputation as a humane slave owner, as strange as that sounds to us today. But he was definitely an unwavering supporter of slavery, which to us as Jews seems so contrary to the most fundamental principles of Judaism and our history, remembering as we do at every service, for once we were slaves to Pharaoh in the land of Egypt, and God redeemed us with an outstretched hand and a mighty arm. Benjamin's view that slavery should continue was based on his belief that citizens had a right to their property as guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. Fortunately, I suppose we could say, that he did avoid the argument of most Southerners that slaves were inferior beings and that their position as slaves was somehow ordained by God. That's the best we can probably say about him. Essentially, he held the same views as most other white Southerners, that the slaves would not be ready for emancipation for many years, perhaps if ever, and they feared that freeing the slaves would ruin them financially and lead to murders and rapes of their former slave owners. We have so many far more illustrious Jewish American figures who have contributed mightily to the fabric and the greatness of the United States of America. Names such as Chaim Solomon, who almost single-handedly financed the American Revolution, Louis Brandeis and Benjamin Cardozo of the Supreme Court, Dr. Jonas Salk, Albert Einstein, Bella Abzug, Betty Friedan, and many others, many, not the least of which is that mighty and heroic but tiny woman who we all wish would live forever, namely Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. God bless her. Shabbat Shalom to all of you. In the spirit of my remarks this evening, I've asked Cantor to sing for us an American song that you all know, but probably you don't know all the words. Actually, the original melody is from God Save the Queen, but it was put to American lyrics around the time of the Civil War. And as you listen to the words, I think you'll find not only the melody, but the song itself new, refreshing, and continuously inspiring. My country 'tis of thee.
My native country, the land of the noble free, thy name I sing. I love your rocks and hills, your woods and temple rills. My heart with joy fills like that above. Let music swell the breeze and ring from all the trees sweet freedom song. Let mortal tongues awake, let all that breathe partake freedom, and silence break these songs prolong. O country, liberty, oh yes, we sing to thee. Long may our land be bright with freedom's holy light. Yes, may our land do right, protect us, may we find our strength, let freedom reign.
Lovely, thank you.
And so, let us use history to inspire us to push our country forward, to help us believe that all things are possible, and let us use history to inspire us to demand that our country lives up to its stated ideals. My country, 'tis of thee sweet land of liberty, to thee we sing.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, the 6 million who perished in the Shoah, and those of every race, nation, and faith whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. The departed whom we remember have entered into the peace of life eternal. They still live on earth in the acts of goodness they performed and in the hearts of those who will always cherish their memory. May the beauty of their lives abide among us as a loving benediction. On this Shabbat, our congregation remembers the following. Florence Schulman remembers David Aaron Schur. Beverly Saffron remembers Peter Harwich. Paul Stahl remembers Jeanette Lichtner. And our temple family remembers Teresa Agar, Jenny Jacobson, Jeanette Freisner, Dora Keller, Stephen Jacob Jochnowitz, Carol Gordon Berman, Henry Kantrowitz, and Benjamin Kittredge. And as well, each of us remembers in our own hearts our own dear ones that we have lost in years gone by. In their memories, we join together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, B'alma divra chirute v'amlich malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon, u'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agola uvizman kariv vimru amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach li'olam ulamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtavach, v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitnatar v'yitaleh v'yitalhal, shemei dekudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and bring comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen.
Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru, imeru, amen.
Now, as I would imagine you are aware, this weekend is Father's Day.
Yay!
And we have something special to sing in honor of the fathers, the dads, and the grandfathers. Actually, the name of the song is Shiro Shel Abba, which means a song for dad. And it's written by Naomi Shemer, Israel's most well-known and beloved poetess and songstress of blessed memory. And what does it have to do with dads? Absolutely nothing, except that her father used to sing a version of this prayer, and at the dinner table and around the house. And Naomi Shemer put it to her own melody, and it's called to this day Shiro Shel Abba, Dad's song.
אם מחר חצבת אבן לחכים בניין חדש, מחר חצבת אבן לחכים בניין חדש, לא לשון אחי חצבת לבניין חדש, כי מן האבנים האלו ייבנה המקדש. Rabbi, ייבנה המקדש, ייבנה המקדש. אם מחר נתת ארץ במקום דרדר, מחר נתת ארץ במקום דרדר, לא עכשיו אחי נתת במקום דרדר, כי מן העזים האלו ייבנה ההר. Everybody who knows it, ייבנה המקדש, ייבנה המקדש, ייבנה המקדש, ייבנה המקדש. Here's to all our fathers in heaven, here on earth. Yay! Where would we be without you?
We wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom, a happy Father's Day to all the dads and grandfathers, and hope you find a great way to celebrate this weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.